It was the taser that should never have been fired. Tonight there is serious criticism of police officers whose actions led to the death of an unarmed man, Jordan Begley.
An inquest jury has found officers from Greater Manchester Police were guilty of a series of failures after being called to his home 2 years ago.
Jordan, who was 23, suffered almost 70 separate injuries to his face and body when he was violently restrained after he was tasered. The coroner at his inquest ruled the use of the taser had contributed to his death.
Our correspondent Matt O'Donoghue has been following this case from the start and joins us now from the court in Manchester. Matt.
Well, Mike, there were emotional scenes in the court here in Manchester after nearly 2 years. It's almost exactly 2 years to his death. When Dorothy Begley told us that she now feels that she has some form of justice for her son. In court, the officers involved claimed that their force that they used was proportionate and reasonable, but they believed that Jordan was in possession of a knife. But this jury failed to agree with them. And what began as a mother's 999 call for help ended with her son's death at the hands of the officers who were supposed to protect him.
My son's been accused of robbing a handbag, and just for the murder. Do you know what I mean? So you need to get someone there quick.
Scared and ranting, Jordan Begley can be heard in the background, threatening to stab his neighbour in the face.
He wants to have an hand, so you need to get someone there quick.
As his mum urges officers to come to her address, he picks up a small knife, threatens to confront his accuser.
And I need the police here as quick as I can, please. Jordan, just stay there, you're not going out!
They killed Jordan. They killed him. The police killed Jordan that day.
Standing at the gate to the house they once shared, his mum says it's her fault officers arrived here that night.
I called the police out thinking they'd come out, talk to the neighbours, talk to Jordan and sort things out. That was why the phone call was made.
That call for help sealed her son's fate. The day before he was killed, police sent us this email, a warning about their most wanted man, also named Jordan Begley. Dorothy Begley believes police came in such numbers to her house because they thought her son was someone else.
To come the way they come over an argument with the neighbour, you know, shields and all the cop cars. I mean, the road was literally shut off with cop vans. The ambulance had to come all the way round to get in. Just have a look in it, we've got the same name.
It's a mix-up that Greater Manchester Police deny, but a coincidence that the jury would have found hard to ignore.
When we moved out, Jordan's friend moved in. So I went in there once and it didn't feel right, and I just come out.
March, and Dorothy Begley returns to the house with her legal team.
I'm Jordan, right? I want you physically to place me where he was when you saw him.
Our cameras are given exclusive access as her solicitor Mark McGee helps reconstruct events.
Right, so Jordan stood there, where you are now.
Right.
His arms were at the side there, and his
Right.
legs were apart.
Jordan Begley had come in to explain he'd been falsely accused of stealing money, how he'd been threatened. But once inside, the house filled with police. PC Andrew Moore told the court he'd calmed Jordan down, that the situation was under control, and that this man, PC Terry Donnelly, arrived armed with his taser.
He looked dead scared, and the taser was shining in his eyes, so I could see clearly how he looked, and he looked terrified.
Her son stood in this room, surrounded, unarmed and empty-handed. Seconds after Dorothy Begley saw him, he was tasered. Hit in the chest with an 8-second jolt from the stun gun, he crumples, arms pinned, legs smothered. Andrew Mills drops onto Jordan's right shoulder with his knee. He punches him twice in the kidneys. There are now 4 officers restraining him. He's now fighting for his life. A pathologist's report states his face was covered in cuts, bruises and carpet burns. His right ear was yellow and blue where he'd been held as his face was roughly ground against the carpet. His arms were covered with abrasions, deep muscle bruises to his left shoulder and below the ribs where he'd been punched repeatedly, and multiple cuts and bruises to his thighs, knees, calves and shins. In all, Jordan had 67 separate injuries.
Absolutely battered him.
Experts say taser did play a part in Jordan Begley's death.
I didn't think he died. I was going to see him. I was told when they settled him on the ward, I could come and see.
After a funeral paid for by Greater Manchester Police, Jordan's family have been left to tend his grave with nothing but memories. The police watchdog, the ipcc, carried out a review of this case, and we can exclusively reveal they cleared all the officers involved.
Right, O'Donoghue there. Well, cardiologists told the jury that the taser, the situation Jordan was in, and the restraint all contributed to the stress that caused Jordan's heart attack. So with around 1 in 10 British police now carrying the weapon, just how safe is that stun gun our officers rely upon so much?
This is Scottsdale, in Phoenix, Arizona. It's the home of Taser International.
Here in Scottsdale, all their officers, just like these guys, are trained and then armed with one of these. Back home, it's around about 10%.
You're accountable for every second that's on there. So in the heat of the battle, something comes up and you're holding that down, holding it down, holding it down. You're going 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 seconds. You're accountable for every one of those seconds.
Dan Antrim trains his officers in how to use their stun guns safely.
It used to be the old-fashioned, we call it polyester pileup. Cops would just jump in, and that hurts people. If it's used properly and you have that neuromuscular incapacitation where the body is locked up, they can't fight back. There's no reason to everybody jump on it and start fighting anymore.
So if properly used on Jordan Begley, there should have been no need to jump on him, to restrain him with such force.
The X-26 fires 2 probes up to a distance of 21 feet, transmitting pulse energy into the central nervous system of the target, safely causing immediate incapacitation.
Through that door there is a bar. The landlord from that bar has called in. He's concerned about one of his locals.
We've been given exclusive access to the Metropolitan Police as they train their officers to safely use Taser.
Hello, sir, you all right?
Police everywhere are taught that 7 feet is the point that Taser becomes properly effective.
Mate, it's a red dot from a taser. Papers within 50,000 volts. Are any aggression towards me?
The Taser X26 is designed to work up to 21 feet, but in the training, one of the things that we cover is the most effective distance, which is between 7 and 15 feet.
Jordan Begley was just 2 feet away when PC Donnelly opened fire.
Now, if I squeeze the trigger, you'll see a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
But Terry Donnelly overrode the automatic cut-off. He gave Jordan Begley a charge lasting nearly 9 seconds. Used more than 2.75 million times, Taser is now in over 100 countries. But the human rights pressure group Amnesty International claims it's been linked to at least 500 deaths in America since 2001, and at least 11 here, including Jordan Begley's. They're statistics that police refute.
Actually, no, there isn't a single recorded death so far that has been linked directly to Taser.
Neil Bass is the Deputy Assistant Commissioner for the Metropolitan Police. He's also the national lead on Taser.
There's always an underlying cause that's different, and until that changes, I think it's wrong to draw the conclusion that effectively Taser has caused those deaths. That's just not the case, and that's not what has been found in those inquests.
But the cardiologists at Jordan Begley's inquest say Taser did play a part in his death.
Volunteers ready?
Taser were so keen to show how safe their stun gun is, they demonstrated for our cameras on 2 members of their staff. Look at the care taken before, during, and after their exposure. At this point, Jordan Begley was knelt on. He was punched, his head bounced off the hard floor, and then he was dragged across the carpet.
Well, it's unpleasant. I've done it. I feel very confident it works. It's not risk-free.
Steve Tuttle's Vice President of Taser International.
We have been listed as causality in some cases. We've been listed as a contributing factors because they have to look at all of the factors that occur. And that sometimes includes all uses of force thrown in with the kitchen sink, so to speak, when there's been an arrest-related death.
My name is Damian Mendoza,
Officer Mendoza's force was one of the first to be trained to carry taser. But even in America, where these officers carry guns with bullets, tasers are last resort.
We have our firearms, which is a Glock 22, 40 caliber. We have a taser, which is here. A gun is more for deadly force situations, or something that we can say requires that. Talking to someone and being able to de-escalate the situation is very key, because then you don't have to go to other tools, and a taser is one of them.
And back home, it's exactly the same.
Effectively, their first and most powerful weapon is their voice, and we teach officers to negotiate first. There is no more accountable police officer than an officer who's used force, and it doesn't matter whether it's a taser, whether it's a gun, whether it's a baton, or whether it's their open hands. If they've used force, they're going to have to justify and account for that individually, and it's right that it should be investigated transparently, and that we should know the truth.
When it comes to force, each officer is individually accountable. It's a lesson taught to every new recruit, and a lesson Jordan Begley's family hope may finally have been learned.
Well, joining us now are Dorothy Begley, Jordan's mother, and her solicitor, Mark McGee. Just to start off with, Dorothy, what's your reaction to the result in court today and to what happened to your son?
Fantastic. Absolutely over the moon. Finally, after 2 years of fighting, we finally got the answer we wanted for Jordan.
And what about the way that those officers treated Jordan that evening?
Oh, just remember, it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific what they'd done to him, which we finally come out now with the truth, what they'd done to him, how they had him on the floor and just left him, and it'll finally come out.
And you feel that you now have justice for Jordan?
Yeah, I do, yeah. That's all I've ever wanted out of this. That's all I've ever wanted.
Thank you very much. Mr. McGee, just tell us, please, what happens now?
Well, this is a very, very serious set of criticisms against Greater Manchester Police and some various officers. We're all going to have to take stock in relation to it all. But suffice it to say, there are going to have to be a great many questions that have arisen from today that are going to have to be answered in different forums affecting all sorts of individuals and public bodies.
We've heard a whole series of things there. Evidence was destroyed, the taser shouldn't have been used, the force wasn't proportionate, they didn't follow the training with Jordan on the ground, the way that the taser was used was completely wrong, and all the way along here, this force has backed their officers.
That's correct. Sir Peter Fahey, as I previously said, is going to have to think long and hard about what's happened over the last 2 years, and in particular decisions that have been made for and on behalf of Greater Manchester Police and the officers that have materially affected this family, who have today been totally vindicated. That point needs to be made.
And in the point at which this has happened, in the days following, Sir Peter Fahey and his Police and Crime Commissioner, Tony Lloyd, met with Dorothy Begley.
Fahey met with Dorothy Begley the day after this death. In addition to that, he paid for the funeral. That's fact. You can't get out of that. And he has to take stock as to the repercussions in relation to the decisions and findings that have been made today.
Thank you very much for that. That's Mark McGee, who has been with Dorothy Begley throughout. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get any response from Greater Manchester Police, although we have asked for an interview with Sir Peter Fahey about the damning conclusions that have been turned here at the court in Manchester. And of course, we will bring those answers that the police should have for us to you as soon as we get them.
Thank you very much. Next, and a police officer has told a court